Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show on News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Early voting continues in the May 5th municipal elections. And joining me in studio right now to talk about one of the major issues on the ballot for Lubbock voters, Norma Ritz Johnson from the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce, who is sporting the I Voted sticker. I am sporting that. Yes. Just voted late yesterday evening, and I actually took 2 stickers so I could wear one yesterday and one this morning just for you, Chad. There you go. All right. You were one of the, a little bit over 1,000 people who got out and voted? I did. It was a beautiful afternoon, and, you just never know what's going to happen or what, So we always encourage people to get out and vote early, and thanks so much to the Lubbock County Elections Office. They make it so easy and so convenient. Yeah. Lubbock is one of those places that's been recognized for our accessibility when it comes to early voting, especially with our vote centers. Mm-hmm. And there's really just no excuse if you don't get out and vote. Yeah. And one of the major issues on the ballot, and a issue that the Chamber of Commerce has come out in favor of, is the abandonment of the Coliseum and Auditorium. That's right. Why has the Chamber come out in favor of this? Why is this a good thing in the eyes of the Chamber? It's really when you look at it from a business standpoint, and of course, at the Chamber of Commerce, we represent around 1,900 businesses that comprise roughly 79,000 employees. We're the largest business federation on the South Plains. And so we have great business leaders that lead our organization. And when we sit down and look at the business case for it, it's just really the sensible choice going forward. It's kind of a win-win in that it opens the door for progress that Texas Tech University has indicated that they would like to make on that particular tract of land, and it's right now a money drain to the taxpayers to the tune of around $650,000-$700,000 a year in the red, operating in the red. So it's one of those things that the facilities are pretty much beyond financially feasible, financially sensible repair. It's not unlike when you get to a certain point with a vehicle that you own. I mean, what was your first car, Chad? First car was a Honda Civic, actually. Really, a Honda Civic? Yeah. What year model? 2000, maybe a 99 or 2000. Yeah. Yeah. Well, my first car was a 1964 Malibu Super Sport. It had been my mom's car. And, they get to a certain point. Now, that could be viewed as a classic. And there are people that choose to make those investments. And that's great for personal funds and personal hobbies. But when it comes to the taxpayer dollar, you've really got to look at it as a business decision. Right. You may be sentimental about that first car that you had, but when resources are limited, you really can't be real sentimental about things, and you've got to look at things from a business decision. Now, I know you don't have all the answers that maybe a city council person would have as far as what plans would be going forward from the city angle, mm-hmm. but you've seen some of the concerns that are out there, some of those who are against voting for this. You've seen it on my Facebook page. You've heard mm-hmm. about them as well. Maybe you've heard them from other, from some in the business community. Let me ask you about this, because this seems to be one of the concerns that's out there, is the lack of a plan moving forward. What's going to happen to the ABC Rodeo? We know they're going to be safe mm-hmm. for 2019. Right. Texas Tech has already said we're not going to do anything. Right, and thanks to Texas Tech for being observant, of that situation. Right, but that seems to me one of the issues is what's going to happen for future events. Does this lead to the city of Lubbock proposing a $30 million, $40 million multi-purpose event center.
I really don't see that in the future from a city of Lubbock standpoint. And I can't speak, of course, for the mayor or the city council, but I do know that if you look back, for instance, if you look at the auditorium and if you look at what the plan is that is now in place, and if you haven't been to downtown Lubbock lately or sort of on the east part of the Marcia Sharp Freeway, I would encourage you to go and take a drive and watch that steel going up for the Buddy Holly Hall of Performing Arts and Sciences. At one time, that was sort of what people said, oh, you know, that's a big pipe dream. That's never going to happen. And, oh, we're sure that that's going to be a big city tax-funded boondoggle. Well, here we are with a privately funded facility that is going to be to call it a substitute for the auditorium is a little bit of an understatement. It's going to be a state-of-the-arts facility that will also be able to accommodate things that are going on now, performances that are going on now at the auditorium,
right,
at the Municipal Auditorium. And so if you look at past performance, then I have full faith that the business community in Lubbock, we have an amazing business community. That's one reason that I really love working at the Chamber of Commerce representing that business community. I feel confident that the business leaders and other leaders in Lubbock will come up with a solution that isn't necessarily something that is completely tax funded, that isn't kind of what you're talking about, because I'm looking at solutions that have been brought forth on, for instance, the auditorium side of things.
Right.
The other thing that I would look at is that the Buddy Holly Hall is being looked at by those who are privately investing in it as an investment for the future. And when you look at the Municipal Coliseum and the condition that it's in, even if somehow funding was found to bring the facilities back up to par, and that includes ADA compliance, that includes fixing what I've heard is a leaky roof, and I don't know how expensive that is, but if $15 million is a conservative estimate on that. Between $14 and $15 million is a conservative estimate on what that would cost. Even then, it would not be on the Coliseum side sufficient to support the kind of events that we right now in Lubbock are losing out on to other cities.
And you're talking about the dirt events, right?
Some dirt events and maybe even some other events that aren't necessarily dirt events. And so, but just from a dirt standpoint, you know, the Coliseum was never actually built and designed for a rodeo. So how much could a rodeo grow if it was in a proper facility, a proper equestrian event facility? Could we also attract those equestrian competitions, cutting horse competitions, English riding competitions, some of those events that would bring additional revenue and bring outside money to Lubbock? And so when you look at it from that standpoint, I really don't know if voters in Lubbock would necessarily approve the $15, $20, $30 million that it would take to bring the Coliseum and Auditorium facilities up to par.
Right. Have you or anyone with the chamber had any discussions with this developer who wants to come in and develop this area, I guess, near the airport? That would include an equestrian center. Have you all had any kind of discussions with that? I know this kind of been almost a 10-year plan, hasn't it?
There have been some discussions that the chamber has been a part of on the periphery, but not with this particular project.
Okay.
We're pleased that there are other discussions that have been going on. Now, there are discussions that we have been part of and had access to and helped facilitate some discussion. But this was not one of those things. We're delighted that other discussions are going on. This is exactly the type of privately motivated people who see this as an investment for the future. This is exactly the type of discussion that we would like to see going on. So we're tickled by that discussion.
Final question before I let you go. Do you worry that if voters vote to approve to abandon the Coliseum Auditorium and another venue is not announced for 5, 6, 7 years or not built for 5, 6, 7 years, do you think that would bring harm to Texas Tech or to the Lubbock community in general.
I don't know if bring harm is really where I would go with it, but I would just say this. Every time there's an event booked for the Auditorium or Coliseum, whoever is planning those events should be nervous up until the last day or even hour before that event is supposed to take place because of legal requirements. If even a single malfunction happens in some area of the facility, I just don't know if that repair would happen in order to allow the event that's been planned to go forward, because it would then trigger that legal requirement, multi-million-dollar expenditure to bring the rest of it up to code. For instance, the sloped floor in the auditorium would have to be completely redone. It's too sloped for ADA compliance. Yeah. So that's just one example of one of the things that would be triggered by a totally unrelated malfunction.
Well, they've got, from what I've understood, they have to add 2 elevators to the column. And this one, they can't do any major repair. If they do a quote-unquote major repair, right, it does trigger that ADA compliance to where they would have to, in the Coliseum, install 2 elevator shafts and 2 elevators, right, redo there's a whole bunch of things they would need to do, which would that would run up cost big time.
So, we're strictly looking at this as a business decision. The other thing is, as Texas Tech goes, so goes Lubbock. So Texas Tech's potential, what they have in mind for what it would mean for Danlaw Field and our baseball program, for what it would mean for our athletic program, that is something certainly that the business people of Lubbock are looking at in terms of the potential that we have for enhancing not only Texas Tech, but our entire community.
Norma Ritz Johnson, Lubbock Chamber of Commerce, as always. Appreciate you coming in. Good to see you. And early voting continues in the May 5th municipal election. Get out there and vote.